First, let's talk about your boots. No, I'm kidding.
No, we were talking about boots in the green room. Mine are from Topshop, so where are yours from?
Rachel Comey.
Glad we got
Yours
that.
are cooler.
Glad we got that out of the way.
Well, one of my girlfriends saw your play this weekend and absolutely loved it.
Oh, good.
What about, was it the terrible cast that drew you? Terrence McNally, like what?
Yeah. Well,
what made you say yes?
Back in the early spring, or back in early April, I guess, I did a one-night-only production of Guys and Dolls with Nathan Lane at Carnegie Hall, directed by Jack O'Brien. And Nathan and I had known each other for years, but we never worked together. And we had a great time doing it, and I love this director, Jack O'Brien, and they were getting ready to do this show, this play by Terrence McNally called It's Only a Play, and so that's how it all came about. They asked me to be a part of it, and I sort of instantly knew that I wanted to do it.
When you get an offer like that, is it instinct? Is it the script? Is it the director? Is it, do you know instantly, or do you have to think about it?
Well, I read it first, but I read it hoping that I would love it, and I did. And it's only 7 people in the cast, and my role is a little bit different from the roles that I normally play. I'm not the crazy, psychopathic, sex fiend, alcoholic, pill-popping nutcase. I'm this very naive, kind of guileless, slightly daffy woman who's the producer of the play.
And what is it, I don't know if you guys are aware, but it's Matthew Broderick, F. Murray Abraham, Stockard Channing. What is it like being in that theater with people of that caliber?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if they set out to cast all like giant celebrities, but they succeeded. But I think the minute that you put Nathan and Matthew together in a show, you're going to sell all your tickets. And they're like, no, well, we didn't do it on purpose. And I'm like, really?
You think?
Was that just an accident? So that's kind of good because the audiences have been fantastic. And then to work with people like Stockard and Murray, who I had not worked with before. I had worked with Matthew also 20 years ago on Broadway in a musical revival of How to Succeed in Business. So had not worked with Stockard or F. Murray Abraham. We call him F. And they're both, fantastic, accomplished actors and very interesting people, very kind. And then there's these 2 young guys in the cast. Rupert Grint, who has screaming, teenagers outside the stage door every night. And apparently a friend of mine from Los Angeles came to the show the other night, and these girls in front of her kept going, look at his thighs. When he pulls his pants down at the very beginning, and they were like freaking over his thighs. I'm like, they're pretty good thighs.
I was going to ask you.
They're very robust.
Muscular?
Yeah. So I can see what all the fuss is about.
Who knew Ron Weasley?
And then this other kid, this other 25-year-old guy named Micah Stock, he'd never done a Broadway show. He did one play that Terrence McNally wrote that was off Broadway, and he's murdering it. I think he's gonna get a Tony nomination. The audience just loves him, and he's never, he's a complete unknown. So that was kind of maybe the most exciting thing about it was our first preview, to hear the audience's reaction to this kid who has never done anything, and he just destroys on every line. And that was really, really kind of the best thing.
What's your process like doing 8 shows a week?
Just lay in bed and stare at the wall all day, and then drag myself out and put on my false eyelashes and go to the theater. It's so exhausting. exhausting. Like, I don't know. Nick, my husband, just got into town on Monday, and I never go out on Monday. I just sort of like, I'm in like a sealed room, like wearing a hood all day. And so we went out on Monday, which was like unheard of, and then we went out on Tuesday day, and I'm just decimated. Like, I feel like I'm like completely stoned right now, but but yeah, I don't usually do much. I think because it's not physically that taxing, although my dressing room is on the 4th floor, so I'm like Flojo right now. Like, I'm like Jackie Joyner-Kersee. Like, I could do a triathlon. But I think it's more like mentally and emotionally kind of, you expend a lot of emotional energy doing the show, and just like staying and focused, you spend a lot of mental energy. And then getting to the dressing room, you get like a really hot bod.
So who, do you guys go out after the show, and who parties the hardest?
Nobody. It's the weirdest. Okay. This is the one thing about the show that is very exceptional. It's the only piece of theater I've ever done where people don't go out after the show. Nobody goes out. I think it's a little bit older group, and then like Rupert plays this very like aggressive character, but in real life he's very shy. He's a very sweet guy, but extremely shy. And the other kid, Micah, lives in Brooklyn, but I think everybody else is just old and they just want to get home. I don't know. I'm not sure, but nobody really goes out. It's very odd. Usually when you do any kind of thing that's theater, a musical or a play, by the second day of rehearsal, everybody's like, I love you so much. And, you're inseparable best friends, and everybody's like joined at the hip, but that didn't happen on this.
Really?
Everybody likes each other and gets along great, and there's no like negativity. It's just we're separable. We're very easily separated.
I love that. We're separable.
What Gwyneth Paltrow call it? What's it?
Conscious uncoupling.
We consciously uncouple after every show. In a very pleasant, amicable way. Only to be recoupled at 7:30 the next night.
When it comes to your career choices, how choosy are you?
Well, I did that. I can't believe it's not butter commercial, so apparently not particularly. That was a little bit of a misunderstanding. I did not know it was going to be like that. Had I known, I might have walked on by. No offense to the people who paid me a lot of money to do that. But no, I try to pick things. I try to go by the scripts, but it's a little bit of a crapshoot because you don't always know. Like, the script could be good, but then it could be executed poorly, or sometimes it's the reverse. Sometimes it's something you think, I'm going to go out on a limb on this, but it's not going to work, and then it like Will and Grace, I didn't think was going to be very good.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe I need to think about my powers of perception. You kind of never know.
Do people expect you to be Karen when they meet you?
Yeah. I think so. I think they're hoping. As time goes by, I think now some people expect me to be Tammy, which is even worse. I don't know which is worse, but yeah. And P.S., without blowing anything, Tammy will make one last, if I may say, unforgettable appearance on Parks and Rec.
Can you provide any further detail, or do we need to bring your husband out here to talk about this?
What? Should we bring him out?
No, to talk about your Tammy's final appearance?
Oh, God. I didn't think they could top what we've already done, but they did. Yeah, let's just say, well, I can't really say anything without, I'm afraid I would tip it, so I don't want to say anything.
Well, let's open up the floor to questions from you guys. I'm sure you have things you want to ask Megan.
We have an open mic if anybody wants to ask a question.
Open mic.
Remember those days?
You sing your questions.
Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Hi. So Bill Hader has credited you for giving him his first big break. I was wondering what stood out about his performance and if there's anyone else you think is very funny.
Wait, what was the thing before anyone else you think is very funny?
Oh, so Bill Hader has credited you.
I got that.
What stood out about him?
Oh, okay. Well, it is kind of crazy. My husband's brother used to live in Los Angeles, and he was taking classes at the Improv. He was taking improv classes, which is, I guess, the kind of classes they give there. And strangely enough, and they were going to have a show of their class. You know, their class was having their show, and we went to see it. And there was this guy in it who was like a fucking superstar. And so after the show, everybody went to Cantor's Deli on Fairfax. And I went up to the guy and I said, hi, and I introduced myself, and I said, you're so funny. Would it be weird? I said, I know we don't know each other. Would it be weird if I called Lorne Michaels about you? And he was like, what? And so I did, and Lorne Michaels called me back, and he said, okay, I'll fly him out, but he better be funny. And I was like, oh, shit. And then, he was, and it's Bill Hader, and that's how that happened. I feel like I feel like if I had been an agent or a casting director or a manager, I'd be like a billionaire, because I feel like I see people early on, and I always write people's names down in case I ever, produce something, and then later they almost invariably become, a big deal. So yeah, there's tons of people who I think are incredibly great. Like there's a lot of new people on that show, Broad City, who I think are really offbeat and kind of lumpy and interesting and wouldn't get cast on a network show, or although that's starting to change. But there's some new comedies that have some really, really great people in them. And then, a lot of those people have come up out of UCB and other improv groundlings. Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
You mentioned that you had done a musical revival years ago with Matthew Broderick. Budget and logistics not hindering you, what would be your ideal revival to do yourself these days?
Oh, well, I really am hoping that they might do that production of Guys and Dolls that I did with Nathan Lane on Broadway, because I played Adelaide in that, and he plays Nathan Detroit. And it was the first time that I've ever gotten a chance to really show, like, everything that I can do. Like, sometimes I get to do, like, one or two things, but not, like, everything. So I would love to do that. It's such a well-written show, and it's such a great part, and Nathan's so fun to work with, and Jack O'Brien. And the way we did it was, like, they just had the orchestra. They had a big orchestra on the stage, and very minimal costumes, so I don't think it would be that expensive to do, Broadway producers who are watching right now.
What do you get out of theater that you don't get out of TV or movies?
It's crazy how different those things are. But I guess it's just getting to tell the story in a relatively unbroken arc, except for intermission, without someone yelling "cut." Like you're telling that story live, and it happens in that moment, and the show is always different because the audience is always different, and the actors come in different states of mind every day, and that's really exciting, and it's also quite a challenge to keep, it's just, you're just telling a story, but to keep it fresh for the audience every time. I do really enjoy it, though. And especially in a show like this where the audiences seem to love it so much. The audiences just go hog wild like every time. I don't even know what's happening sometimes. I'm like, really? Is it that funny? Okay.
I feel like every theater actor I've ever interviewed always has an audience horror story. Zach Braff was saying there was someone that they thought actually died in the audience. This woman passed out and just was like that for the entire show, including intermission. Have you ever had a situation with a ringing cell phone for half an hour?
Well, yeah, I've had a lot of cell phones and those Amber Alerts and stuff. That's a good one. It's crazy when 19 people's phones are going whack, whack, whack. Had that, but one time a long time ago when I did a musical in Chicago a long time ago, and the theater was set up in, there was an entrance, there was audience, and then there was an entrance, and then there was audience, and another entrance, an audience, and a little walkway. And at one point, we're doing this stupid musical about Catholic school children, and at one point, this man burst through the door and looked around and then ran out the other exit, and then there's a beat and two cops burst through the door and looked around and then ran out the same door. It was like a police chase in the middle of the... I still don't know what was going on to this day. That was in the 80s. I have no idea.
That's kind of amazing.
Maybe it was Nick. Probably.
Hi, Megan. Between television and straight plays and musicals, do you have a medium that is maybe your favorite or where you feel most at home?
Well, I like them all, but they're all really different. I'm not sure. I guess a job like Will and Grace is probably the best job you could possibly have because we worked a total of 30 hours a week and we got paid a ton of money and everybody loved the show. So where's the downside? But yeah, I like them all, but they're all really different. And I guess it's really about the material and then working with nice people who are good at their jobs. I love doing Children's Hospital. We have so much fun doing that show. And nobody sees it. Or do you guys know about Children's Hospital? This guy. All right. Well, that's pretty much our audience, is this one guy out of 50. But it's such a great show, and all these great actors or who weren't working actors at the time have come out of it, and it's on Adult Swim at midnight on Sundays, and it's 15 minutes long, and it's won 2 Emmys, and it's this really comedy forward sort of meta comedy that's set in a children's hospital. But I love doing stuff like that, and we don't get paid. We get paid very little. But it's just, the people are so brilliant who are putting that show together, and the material is so funny, and we just have so much fun doing it. Nick actually has a recurring role on that show, so you guys should check it out.
Hello. I had a question. I hate to keep going back to Will and Grace because the work that you've done is just so encompassing, especially on stage. But I had the pleasure of talking with Sean Hayes, and we had a great chat about one of the scenes in the final episode where the two of you are singing Unforgettable to one another. And he had talked about in that moment that he felt like it was him who was singing to you and not just Jack to Karen. And so I wanted to ask you, as an actor, I went to conservatory for school. So as an actor, rare and wonderful is the opportunity where you actually get to, in moments, be who you really are through a character and to be able to let that come through in a scene with another person in whatever way. So I wanted to ask you, when have you had the opportunity to allow Megan to come through in any of the scenes or the roles that you've done?
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, just to add, that scene was so hard to get through. Like, we couldn't, I don't think we ever got through it in rehearsals even. And like these old, like even like the camera crew guys, like these grizzled veterans were like sobbing, and it was really rough. Yeah. And then after the scene, Sean broke down and we had a good cry together. Of course, I was solid as a rock. That's not true. I made it sound like I was totally fine. I don't know, because I'm a character actress, so I don't get that many chances to play myself. And when I do, I love it, and I wish that I could be hired more to play characters that are closer to like normal people. I did a short for this brilliant young filmmaker named Janixa Bravo that won the Grand Jury Short Film Prize at Sundance this year, where I get to, with Gabby Hoffman, the actress Gabby Hoffman from Transparent. That was really great, and I get to sort of play much closer to myself, like a normal person, but I don't get that many chances. I actually feel like the character in this play I'm doing right now on Broadway, it's only a play, is closer to me than the crazy characters that I play normally, because I'm like actually really nice, like almost in a queer, like stop being so nice way. So this character has that. I mean, I think that's probably a weird thing to say about yourself, is how nice you are, but I'm pretty boring, I think is what I'm trying to say. I'm not as like, I don't have like a lot of zingers and stuff just in everyday life.
You don't carry a bottle of vodka in your
I'm not
bag?
like whipping my bra off and, yeah. I just do that for a paycheck.
What's dinner like at your house?
What's what?
Dinner like at your house?
Dinner? What's dinner like? Well, there's a microwave involved, and neither of us cook, and usually there's a lot of feeding of our dogs, like sort of intermixed with feeding of ourselves. So that's about it, yeah. We don't have kids, so, it's just us. That's it. All right, well, good night. Oh, this guy, 11th hour, this guy's like, but I wanted to be last. I'm special.
Megan, I know you were supposed to guest star on Sean Saves the World, which sadly came to an early end. Do you and Sean
right before I was supposed to shoot.
Do you and Sean have anything else planned since that didn't work out, or is there any chance that maybe they'll resurface that episode or anything like that?
Well, he's on The Millers now. He's doing that show, The Millers. He's like a regular on it, and I haven't seen it yet. It just premiered, but I TiVo'd it. But I missed the first episode. But he's joined the cast of that show. I think it's on CBS. So I think for now we're kind of going to have to just do our own things. But, we all keep in touch. I've been emailing back and forth with Eric McCormack, and Deborah Messing came to see this play that Nick and I did off Broadway this spring. And Sean and I are in touch quite a bit. So, yeah. I might end up doing a show that his production company is involved with or something down the road, but it would be fun for us to act in something together.
What's the thing you miss most about having a primetime show like that?
Just having a regular job, a steady job. Yeah, that's it. That was such a great job, because the audiences really loved the show, and the studio audiences. As a matter of fact, this play I'm doing now is probably the only other time I've heard laughs like that, like kind of explosive laughter. and it's weird because the play people are just coming in cold, not knowing, but Will and Grace, the audiences were coming sort of like expecting to see, like, when's Rosario coming out? And but I loved doing that show because the writing was so great, and they really wrote to our characters, like they really built our characters up. My character in the pilot is completely different from what it ended up being, down the road, and they really built all of our characters up, and they gave us all these great, quirks and things. And we had Jim Burrows directing every episode, and he's sort of like a legendary television director. And I don't know, just having a job for an actor to have a job for 8 years is kind of unheard of. So that was probably the best thing about it.
Are you like most actors in that you worry once a job ends that you'll never work again, or do you have a confidence at this point that you will get hired?
Well, I wouldn't say, you never know, but I think because I sing, it kind of adds another element where I could get offered like a musical or, something that involves music. I guess I'm not supposed to talk about it, but I think I'm supposed to do one of those animated movie musicals, but I can't say what yet because it hasn't been announced, but that'll be fun because I've always wanted to do one. But that adds an element of like getting an extra chance to be offered things. I don't know. I started out as a dancer. That's kind of off the table at this point. Although I did dance in Guys and Dolls, and I want to do it again because it was fun. But yeah, I have a little bit of that. I definitely have things I want to do that I haven't been able to do yet. I definitely want to do more things like she mentioned where I get to play sort of a normal character and more things that are maybe more dramedy than just full-on farce, because I think that that's something that I'm good at also, but I haven't had as many chances to do.
And what's the most repetitive question that you get asked by fans?
Do the voice, or did it hurt to do the voice of Karen? I was like, if it hurt, I probably wouldn't have chosen to do it.
Done it for 8 years.
Yeah. No, that's probably the most, sadly, repetitive question I get. Or something about Nick and my relationship, which has been like mythologized now into, the greatest love story ever told. Like we've been laughing, like, what if we ever get into a spat in like a supermarket? It's going to be like the headline of the New York Times, like it's going to be on a Chiron on CNN. We're just normal people. Yes? You have a question? Yeah, just yell it out, lady.
Hi, thanks for coming and talking to us today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
This is kind of a half-baked question, but I'll go for it. So when Will and Grace started, we were not, like, as a culture, cool with gay people, like admitting they existed and being around and on TV. And that has changed so much in the last, I guess, 15 years since Will and Grace came on. Mm-hmm. And a big part of it was that show, normalizing it to people who didn't think it was okay or had difficulty with it. And I'm just wondering, what was that experience like to get to be part of that, and how have you seen it change? And I don't know, it seems pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it's still kind of going. Like I feel like I'm still in that experience. Well, when the show started, the only other show that had a gay character before Ellen was Soap, which was, I think, on in the early 80s, and Billy Crystal played a gay guy, but he had kind of a small part.
And Melrose Place, right?
Oh, did they have
Or Dynasty. Was it Dynasty or no?
Really? Oh,
No, I think
didn't
Melrose
remember that.
Place had one for like one episode.
Oh, one episode, yeah.
They
But-
quickly got rid of him. Like he.
Yeah,
threw
but they
away.
wouldn't
Yeah.
dare to like have him on as a regular. But then Ellen, had her show and came out, and I think that the only problem, which was, laid the groundwork for our show, but I think the problem, the reason Ellen's show then didn't last was because she had established herself as a presumably straight woman and like this, blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl next door kind of, and then she came out and then it instantly had to become politicized because you can't, then the next episode can't just be like, you can't go back to like, the crazy thing that happened at the bowling alley, like you have to, And by that, I do not mean Ebola. So then when Will and Grace started, being gay was just one component of these two men's lives. Like, one's a lawyer, one's a fuck up, one's likes to cook, one is a temp, and whatever it was, and they both happen to be gay. So it wasn't necessarily politicized, and we also the gay bashing was built in. So if you were so inclined, you had your work already done for you. But I think then now it kind of blows my mind that every show, really every show, and not only are there gay characters, but there are gay love scenes, like that show How to
Get Away with
Get
Murder.
Away with Murder. Like, if
a
that
network show.
that would have been like the Red Shoe Diaries, but I don't not even on the Red Shoe Diaries wouldn't even have done it. It's crazy how much it's changed. And some stuff from Will and Grace just went into the Smithsonian, like pieces of the set and Karen's flask and her pill bottles and some other things are in the Smithsonian. And the vice president has credited Will and Grace with helping, to open up people's minds. And then the Republicans have, said just the opposite on their end. And I don't know. It's hard to sort of believe. When we were doing the show, we started getting letters from people saying, I was thinking of killing myself, and then your show came on, and I watched it with my parents, and I was able to come out to my parents, and now my whole life has changed, and everything's fine. And that was when that was the first thing that happened, was that kind of thing.
Well, thank you guys so much, and thank you, Megan.
Thank you. Thanks so much.